Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Bonus stream time. Why is that? Well, we got a little Phobies Fright Night action coming at you. In fact, it is the semis and the finals for Fright Night 7. There are 4 competitors left after a grueling event, and we're going to find out which one of them is going to take it home. Now, which competitors, you might ask? Well, I'm going to throw a quick screenshot up on here now. This is our bracket at this stage, we'll call it. Right up there, our semifinals and our finals. I'm just waiting for the players to check in. We're, of course, a few minutes early. So just looking for all of them to check in, make sure that we're good to go and we're ready to play. So, chat, we talked about it pretty extensively last night. I expect, as of right now, and this is subject to change, of course, that Fright Night number 8 will be Tiny Terrors. There will be no map bans for Tiny Terrors because, to be perfectly honest, right now I don't believe they are necessary. That may not be true. We'll have to see. Are there any yoinks that are legal in Tiny Terrors? Like, I think Moffat is a rare. Moffat's a rare, and I'm pretty sure Octonauty is also. Yeah, Octonauty is rare. Obviously, Attractor is. Akira clearly is not. There are no uncommon or common yoinks. There are boops because Slammerhead is legal and so is Finnegan. But other than that, there are no displacement effects that are legal. And Fetch, yeah, is Fetch as well. But as of right now, I'll be honest, to be perfectly blunt, chat, I've been thinking about this for a while since Tiny Terrors came up, and I've been trying to build towards this. But then I think it was actually DT. It said, well, what if we run a Tiny Terrors event? And I have to be honest, the fact that somebody suggested it made me very, very excited. Because it's been in the back of my head, and I am very much looking forward to showcasing this format. And I hope people love it. I hope people love it. So we'll see how it does. Fright Night number 9 will probably return to a regular format. I have to figure out what we're going to do structure-wise, whether we're going to do Swiss, whether we're going to do a bracket, we're going to do multiple days, we're going to do a single day, whatever. We'll have to play it by ear. Tiny Terrors is meant for people with low stress level in League? No, it will be open to everyone. So give me 1 second. I was actually just about to ping you, Akune, because we'll give it another 5 minutes, but we'll have to get rolling with you to start. So I realized belatedly, because Tiny Terrors, like, the name makes sense it's the commons and uncommons. It's the smaller, weaker phobies. Not necessarily, but you get the idea, like the motif there. I realized belatedly that if we were going to have different leagues, Tiny Terrors would actually be a good name for, like, the lower league, for the lower stress level, and then whatever we call the big one. I'll have to come up with another name that isn't necessarily a size descriptor because I don't want people to get confused. It's going to be very easy to get confused, as we've seen with the map bans and everything. Which is an open debate. I was mentioning that briefly earlier. I do have to change the bot take off the Fright Night 7 signups. I'm looking for feedback on whether we should even have map bans in the future and how we're going to do it. I did respond to some of the comments that were in my Discord about it. There are other ways to tackle and address the issues that map bans are supposed to be pinpointing. Whether they are good solutions or not, I'm open to suggestions and commentary because I want to hear what other people's feedback are. Because, as I mentioned last night, I could come up with the perfect system. And if people hate it, because whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter if it's perfect. I can't make people like it. So it's more important for me to come up with a system that is both accomplishing the goals that we want as well as keeping people happy. The latter being the bigger driving factor. Me personally, like, I hate things not being perfect. So I'm very much a perfectionist. As much as I joke around on stream, we're like, oh, we're just doing things. It eats me a little bit inside when I'm not playing optimally. And it extends to other parts of my life, and I would like to have a perfect system. But if the perfect system in a vacuum is not the perfect system for the player base that exists, it may not be appropriate because people just don't like it. It is what it is. So Big She selects to start with Megalo. This is kind of bold. We did see some statistics coming out of the Swiss rounds. I did post those both to my Discord as well as the official Phobies Discord, which, by the way, just throwing that out here as we get started, I am, of course, part of the content affiliate program. I'm going to do this again. The content affiliate program, as you can see. That means that the Phobies team does, in fact, give me stuff for producing Phobies content, and they're providing the prizes here for Fright Night number 7. So we're going to be jumping in, and we're going to see what the players have in store for us on Megalo. Now, Hakune elects to make Big She go first, so we're just going to wait for this to load up, and then we'll get in there. You feel small maps are more exciting? I mean, they definitely lend a different experience than the big maps. Each of them provides something unique, and I can appreciate both. To me, it's more down to the particular map in question, whether I enjoy playing on it or not. Akira is not banned. That is correct. No Phobie bans. No Phobie bans. Either from me or from the players. And here we go. Game 1, Semifinals, Fright Night number 7, Big She versus Hakune. Let's see what we've got. Now, I talked briefly earlier about the map picks and bans, but this was a Big She pick. So we'll have to see what the particular strategy that our blue player has in mind, because we're getting some fairly standard openers. The Gravedigger, now breaking the top block is something that I think I noticed out of DT recently. I tend to send it to the bottom and break this bottom one, but breaking this top one does give you... Thank you. Thanks, chat. I didn't switch that. So my illustrious and bombastic intro wasted. Womp wah. But we are getting somebody like on YouTube, they're going to be screaming. People are going to light me up in the comments, but that's okay. So we do have a standard-ish opener. Gravedigger, Gravedigger, Cat. You know, Gravedigger plus 1 key, whatever. The thing is that breaking this top is a little abnormal and has been a recent innovation. That's why I was calling out DT, because DT was the first player that I think I saw doing it. Still epic intro? Well, thank you. Thank you. So we get the follow-up corn here from Big She, allowing a bank to 4. There's a whole lot of big nasties, or, well, we'll call them medium nasties, at 4 keys that can definitely make an appearance on this map. Of course, Innocuous is a pretty significant threat here. It can cover the 2 panic points, really the center one, right? And be in a very safe position, either here or if you break the bottom down here. I mean, you don't even have to break it. You could still be in the spot. But we get the signature, or we don't. I was about to say the signature Hakune play of Boom. While Anda is the Boom master, Boom, Kerbloom, and Kaboom, of course, daily Anda plays, but instead, Hakune tends to lean into a more unique play pattern with Boom. Historically, we've seen Hakune, bank to 6 here, also common thing out of Hakune on small maps, but we've seen Boom plays from Hakune where they max out and then instead pop the Boom at a advantageous time, not necessarily to blow something up, but just to detonate it, free up a spot, and then all of a sudden, surprise, I have a big nasty that you weren't expecting. Now, we're seeing another, we'll say, signature play out of Big She here, and this is the early Firkin. Firkin Leprechaun, especially on a small map here, is going to shut off a huge swath of the board from exciting, or we'll say more interesting phobies, as opposed to just, you know, run-of-the-mill, I'm a dummy that punches stuff, or in some cases, punches stuff good. The Firkin, of course, being a lobber, Unlucky Charm is very important. It disables specials, so you can turn off a lot of powerful phobies for an extended period of time. Given that Hakune is banking up to 6 here, we might see a bank to 9. There isn't really a great way for Hakune to claim this center point safely just yet. Soon, but not quite yet. But we are, in fact, getting a Steve's. In spite of the Furkin Leaper card, we're going to see a Jeeves. Now, remember, all Phobies in Fright Night are, of course, level 1, and we're naturally on Arena. But we do have a little Steve's action, some freeze traps. The issue here is the Furkin, even from this position, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the Steve's can go, like, they can get into range of hitting the center point and this center line fairly safely. But even from this position, 1, 2, 3, 4, the Steve's is somewhat locked out. On top of the fact that the Unicorn is here to also preemptively detonate those frost traps. This is kind of a bold move by Hakune. I'm kind of interested to see where this goes. By kind of, I mean exceptionally. So we're getting a more passive gameplay out of Big She, banking up to 5, getting the 1 key. I don't feel as though they were going to get an immediate rush from either player to take the center, because obviously the second player is going to have the advantage here. They can then run in their 1 key to reclaim it and then force an additional set of key or keys out of the other player. So we're probably going to see a dance between the two of them, trying to figure out, okay, how can I pull my opponent out of position? Unicorn, of course, only does 500 damage with its traps, not enough to one-shot a 1 key. We're getting yet another bank out of Hakune, up to 6 keys. I kind of anticipate at some point we're going to see a Hevo. I don't know if Hakune has access to boss, but either one will require yet another turn of banking. Of course, spaces, 2 spaces specifically, still open for our orange player, with only 1 available for our blue player here. So we do get the more aggressive push with everything in position to help defend. You can get double hits from this, and even the Gravedigger can come in and cause some trouble. The map is almost completely cleared, a rare sight, that is true. Gravedigger Minecraft creative mode. You're not wrong. Hakune briefly considers the Jar. At this level, it's actually not enough damage to kill it. Jar, I believe, only does 220 damage at level 1, and that's why we see a Snowball instead taking down the troublesome Spider. There's 4 obstacles left, only half have been removed. True. True. There are still multiple breakable objects on the board. So we're now seeing a more aggressive setup. No! Hakune had to have seen this coming, or should have seen this coming. The cat replacing here means that, unfortunately, yeah, that's bad news. The combination of the friendly fire from, quite literally friendly fire from the Snowball and the trap, yields that the panic point stays blue. On top of it, the bank from Big She has now brought in the true signature in Mildred. And Mildred, I've been on the receiving end of Big She's Mildred, and it is scary. It is a big threat. It is difficult to deal with. And right now, I don't think Hakune's really positioned to address it. Now, what's a little surprising here is that we haven't seen Furkin go off yet. The Furkin is still available. This is allowing Hakune an opportunity to trap up various spaces on the board. The goal here, of course, presumably being that the Mildred will get frozen. Big She has a reputation for utilizing Mildred. And in fact, there was a little bit of discussion between the two players yesterday after the Swiss rounds of the expectation that Mildred was going to come out and dominate or potentially dominate the games. Which makes an interesting choice on why did Hakune ban larger maps? Because the fear was Mildred on a small map. Mildred on big maps, of course, is a threat as well, but on small maps, it feels more oppressive. Is the Steve's the strategic answer to Mildred? That could be what's happening, but I don't know if Hakune has access to Furkin Leaperkarn, who I think is a fairly decent answer, as we've seen in several game breakdowns on stream before. You can turn off a Mildred or just disrupt it just enough to make life so difficult for your opponent that they can't truly utilize it. But instead, we get a bank from Akune up to 8, 11 keys still available to Big Shi's 6. Now, Akune does have to find a way to break this particular board position. 2-to-1 panic point advantage eventually, if nothing happens, this 5,200 heart health will eventually evaporate. And then we'll see a win for the blue team. But is that actually how it's going to go down? Not quite sure here. This is very much anyone's game still at this stage. Maybe some Brony gaming. I wouldn't hate a Brony. The problem is you do have one movers, a significant one mover. Not one movers, one mover, singular. It could be difficult to set up a Brony, because say the Brony is here, swings in, plus the Brony has to dodge getting Firkin. But say the Brony's here, 1, 2, 3, like, you're cutting off a huge segment of the board of yourself. Like, you have to pull way back before you can advance in again. Now, this is interesting from Hakune. Naturally, there are no healing spas. There are no healing spas, so this poison could rack up and ultimately yield a dead unicorn. Get a little popcorn action. It'll be gross, because it'll probably be melted and disgusting, but it will be dead unicorn. If the game goes on another 9 turns and this unicorn remains unhealed and obviously unmolested to accelerate the clock. But I get the sense that this was probably more what Hakune was going for, maybe trying to eliminate some of these traps. 11 keys in the bank, 6 for Big Shi. Like we were saying, now both players have access to all of their keys. Muffin does come out in order to remove this poison immediately. Is that really necessary? I'm not sure. But at this point, I know I've personally lost track of the various potential trap locations. We've already hit 2. It's possible that there's 1 more on the board. Or this could be, has the cooldown available. We'll have to see. Jeeves, however, has remained just untouched by this Firkin. So there has to be a number of Jeeves traps. And there have been opportunities where Big Shi could have safely powered down the Jeeves. But at this point, now we're absolutely getting the bully in the bully position. If Mildred can occupy much closer, which is very risky because of the Jeeves, if Mildred can occupy any of these closer locations, it's going to be exceptional. Ooh, We get a Smiley. Maybe. There's still time for an undo, but we get a Smiley right now for Hakune, and we get a Bachelor. 5 keys remaining for each player. This equalizes them. The big risk here is, of course, and I don't really like this positioning. There may be a trap in either of these locations, and I think Hakune's banking on that Big Shi loses the 50-50. We have seen many occasions where Big Shi has just plowed through a huge number of Smileys. And unfortunately, we may be witnessing a tilted Hakune here. We may be witnessing a tilted Hakune because that is another easily dispatched 1 key. That Bachelor did not have to die. At least in my opinion, it didn't. Similar to the cat, which seemed to have died for no reason. Arguably the Henrietta did, although it traded, air quotes, for the Muffin. We get a Bachelor, and it just didn't have to die. That being said, 3 keys to 2 keys burned. 2 dead keys for blue, 3 dead keys for orange. It's very much even. The problem I have with Smiley is, yes, you can have the disease, which is right now, remember, level 1, 375 on an undead phobie. And it's very easy, especially on a small map, to go, oops, I accidentally tagged your Smiley. The problem is a subsequent Mildred hit will all but heal the Mildred up completely, as we've observed on many occasions before. Things are about to get nasty. You're not wrong. So now we get the players going deep into the tank to figure out exactly what they want to do here. How are they getting out of this scenario? And by getting out of it, specifically Hakune, whereas Big Shi has to just not... They've got victory in their grasp at this point. You have the panic point advantage, you have the defensive position, you even backed it up with an Innocuous. It's going to be very challenging for Hakune to actually penetrate these defenses. Especially since Big Shi is not forced into advancing. Now, one thing that Hakune does have on their side is you could pop some 1-keys. You have room, pop a 1-key, reclaim this point, as long as it doesn't die to a trap, which it won't. You know, just don't spawn something very unhealthy. You can run it to the center, reclaim this, and then your opponent is forced to put something on there. They do have one more 1-key, but they are maxed out. That means they have to sacrifice something on the board in order to make one of the other phobies happen. So we do see a trap elimination come in. This means that Unicorn placed a trap here. This is pretty bold by Hakune, I'm not going to lie. The reason I say that is that obviously this dies. I think the Smiley could die here without the Mildred. Because this, 375... So, say Firkin kills Snowball. This hits twice, this hits twice, this hits. And then the Mildred remains unmolested. We have a Spider coming in, which I do like. Forces the interaction. But this doesn't... Like, this is not a dead Innocuous. And I think the Smiley's going to die without ever connecting with the Mildred. It's possible there's not enough damage to do it. I didn't actually count it up, but it seems fairly close. And of course you get the challenge play here, which allows for a recap on the center point. I assume there's a trap here on the center point, because it's been so long, there's got to be one at this stage. Mildred actually pulls back. So there is not enough damage without Mildred, but this means that, what is the Smiley going to do? Run back to where Gravedigger is? There's no way currently to deal with this Innocuous. It will, of course, take 100 damage here, being at a mere 280 health, but the Jeeves can't reach it. The Gravedigger can't, nor can the Spider. Which means that it's going to just simply get body blocked. There's no way for this to connect. So is the Smiley going to reclaim the center? 1 key still remaining for Big Shi, so something has to happen here for Hakune to once again flip the panic points, but alright, we're getting a retreat. It's still dead from that range, though. This is a very difficult situation for Hakune, because realistically, you have maybe 3 hits to go into something. 2 from Jeeves for 800, another 4 from Gravedigger for 1200, and then 250 from the Spider, because you're going to have to probably move in, yoink, walk in the Gravedigger, maybe you'll be already in range with the Jeeves. You literally cannot kill the Mildred in 1 cycle. That is problematic. Because that means the Mildred will live to then retaliate. And although it's only level 1, that's still 940 damage. That's an enormous amount of damage when you're looking at phobies that, again, at level 1, the health pools just aren't as big as people are used to on ladder. So what I kind of expect will happen here is that we're going to get a yoink to try and eliminate the Innocuous, but the Innocuous astutely moves away. Just checking some stuff in Discord real quick. So there was a trap down here, as I was mentioning earlier. I think there was bait at one point to try and invite the Mildred in. Big Shi, as an avid Mildred user, has clearly practiced this. Is well aware of the potential threats to the Mildred and how important it is to the game plan. Sometimes people will get very excited when they get these major phobies in play, these big, powerful pieces, and say, hey, I'm just going to send it in there and do things. And the problem is that that can, of course, yield, you know, a lot of keys just incinerated. I'm getting the sense that we're rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. So there was a chance that Big She could be aggressive about this, send in the Inoculus, send in the Gravedigger, get rid of the Smiley, but that doesn't seem to be of interest. Big She realizing that the positioning was going to end up with a yoinkable whatever. And to be perfectly honest, it still is yoinkable. Like, Mildred has to go up here. Really. If this ends with this setup, I am of the opinion that Big She is baiting the Spider Pull. Because while you'll disease this, you're going to basically blow up Hakune's entire board. Unless there's a freezing trap here, which I'm going to say there's not. I don't think there was ever a time where Hakune was in range to put a freezing trap here. Or here. You think Hakune wins this? Right now, it's 2,800 to 52. Obviously, Heart Health, not a great indicator. Because you can slide Spider here or here, yoink this, move the Smiley in to disease it. But again, the disease, I don't think matters too much. So we'll see if Hakune takes the bait here, because I really feel like this setup is a bait to try and snipe more pieces of Hakune's army. The floor is ice right now instead of the floor is lava. That may be true. That may be true. But I don't think there's ever a point where, like, the farthest that Hakune has been able to project a trap, I think, is the center tile. I don't think this curvature has the opportunity for an ice trap. Now, Hakune's team will tank a Mildred hit depending on where it is targeted. So it's not as though you're going to lose everything. So we get a little bit more of an aggressive push. Sorry, just answering some questions in Discord at the moment. Getting the other series set up, the other semi. We will be casting that afterwards. I wanted to see if we can... We're trying out a different format of doing it sequentially. So we do get the Mildred yoink here. This is going to get a double hit potentially from Jeeves. Probably only a single hit. Of course, we do get the panic point capture here. This locks out the Gravedigger, meaning that only the Mildred and only the Inoculus would be able to hit Jeeves. But this is going to mean that Mildred hits literally the entire team. And I have to imagine the target is going to be, yeah, just kill the Spider. So Spider dead, Smiley dead. Ooh, Smiley lived. Where did that get targeted? Oh, it must have targeted the Jeeves. But Smiley is ultimately dead, and now we're looking at a very damaged team here. Versus a fairly healthy team, and like I said, at this point, I legitimately don't know that there's a way to kill Mildred. It might not actually be possible. Now, I'm a little surprised that Big Shi didn't go for the panic point capture here, because any attempt by Hakune to reclaim the center point, yep. Game number 1, going to Big Shi. I think Hakune saw the writing on the wall. So let's see what's in store for game 2. You feel like you missed something? I don't think there was any chance Hakune could pull that back past a certain point. When the Smiley came on the board, it looked bad. Smiley appears to not be a very good answer to Mildred. Smiley just doesn't seem to be a very good answer to Mildred, because Mildred will generally not die to the disease in time, like before you get a second Mildred activation. If you get a second Mildred activation, you just do a billion. How did Mildred get yoinked but not frozen? Because there was no opportunity for Mildred to be on one of those tiles. Or a trap to be on one of those tiles. Like, we were just never close enough. Because I think Mildred only existed in this arc. So that's why I was saying the closest tile that it could ever be was this. They were never... they keep saying Mildred. Jeeves was never in these tiles with an opportunity to trap, I don't think. All right, we're getting ready for game 2 coming in. Home Sweet Home is the pick by Hakune, with Big Shi going first. We'll have to see how this one plays out. After we saw the Mildred game, I know that Big Shi is probably going to try and go back to the well. Definitely looks like it's a strong enough strategy. We'll see if Hakune is able to recoup and get their feet back under them for game 2. But here we go, joining in on game 2 between Big Shi and Hakune. Of course, Big Shi up game 1 in this best of 3 series. This was a Hakune map pick. So we'll have to see what they have in store. Mildred basically took the day in the first game on Megalo. Now, given the bans, we're only looking at small maps. Both players banned out 2 bans each. They got rid of basically everything as far as big maps. So we're only looking at these small ones, but Hakune has to worry about this game before they even think about game 3. Got to pull back the series. So we're getting an early Firkin, as I mentioned earlier, is, of course, a Big Shi signature. I think we've all come to respect Firkin a lot more in more recent months. Well, at this point, I think Firkin has earned its respect for many months at this stage. I know early on it felt like it wasn't that, like, a lot of people hated on it. I think I was even one of them, but it's definitely proven its value. Who won the previous game? Big Shi took it down. There was, in fact, no frozen trap from Steve's in order to catch the yoinked Mildred. So as a result, Mildred just did Mildred things, dropped 1,000 tons of cats, and Hakune had a bad day from there. So we end the supplementary forces. If we don't see any further phobies, which we don't, we get a bank to 5 here. When you see these sort of increments, this kind of tells me that Big Shi's getting prepared to drop another Mildred on the board. One more turn worth of banks, and there isn't really a great way for Hakune to aggressively punish this. All right, we see the first adaptation. This may or may not be preemptive to try and address the Mildred problem. But this does mean that there is a pseudo answer to this. You just check the replay of the last game and it makes sense now for the positioning of Steve's versus Frozen Traps, you mean, DT? So we'll see if we do get the bank here from Big Shi. But it looks like we're going to get maybe an aggressive push onto the Stabby. Otherwise, this is just a dead... Yep, we're going to get the body block here because there's nothing in position to actually fight this. And it's not enough damage to single-handedly take this down with a 1 attack. So we're instead getting the Firkin onto Firkin. That will, of course, if a Mildred appears, mean that Mildred is not showing, or is not going to have anything interfering with the 5 tons of cats plan. Although this will probably come off cooldown before then. Oh, maybe not. It's going to be a long cooldown. It's going to be a long wait on the cooldown. Three turns each, and of course, it is in fact the Mildred. I do like the response of Firkin to the Mildred. It's going to be a very delicate dance in order to get the Firkin to connect with the Mildred at this stage. So what else is Hakune planning? Because this isn't going to be enough. The enemy Firkin will, of course, be able to then Firkin the Firkin, as we just saw, and drag it out. The cooldown on Firkin is much longer than the cooldown on kitty littering. So as a result, you're not going to be able to turn it off forever. But Hakune has banked to 7, 16 keys total versus the 9 available for Big Shi. Of course, a big dump of keys went into this Mildred. So we're getting an Attractor, which is a unique answer here. Attractor, of course, very frail, very fragile, 900 health at level 1. In fact, it will die to a direct hit from Mildred, although if that's happening, the game is probably over anyway. But Mildred does present, and we just simply don't see it very often. Not many people utilize Mildred, and because of that, even experienced players such as Hakune, great players, they don't necessarily have, well, I was going to say muscle memory, but they don't just have the memory. They don't have the training necessarily to say, oh, well, this is clearly how I address this situation. You see certain openers, you see certain phobies all the time. You start to build up that repertoire of different tactics, different phobies, different positioning, different overall strategies of how you want to address the scenario. Mildred being the rarer case means, hey, you got to come up with something quick and on the fly. So we are maxed out on phobies here with 2 turns remaining on this Firkin cooldown. Stabby back to full strength. Notably, the Attractor is safe here. It can yoink this center spot. We might see the cowbell come in, but since Hakune is maxed out, they're of course going to be banking. We'll see where this goes. Oh no, permanent cooldown? Sort of. Sort of. Actually, you're right. This is going to come back off before this does. So this has to die before Hakune can ever utilize Firkin. Because this will be available next turn. Hakune has 2 turns before this turns back on, I believe. If Big Shi wants it that way, I would imagine they do. Because then you can just bully with... There is not enough damage on the board currently to kill the Mildred. There just isn't. And I don't think there's any way to present enough damage unless you sacrifice 1 key. So you send in the spider, let it die, they recap, you send in the cat, and then utilize your 10 keys that you have available to try and go over the top. What that going over the top will look like, I'm not really clear on. And there, in fact, is the power down on Hakune's Firkin. That means it is never going to interact, at least certainly not for a while, with this Mildred. Now, I was calling it out last game that I would rather have seen the Firkin over Smiley. I still think that that's probably better, but on this particular map, or small maps in general, I think it's just going to be difficult to try and get it to connect because of exactly this. Big Shi has this down to a science and knows that Okay, Firkin is what I don't want to see. I'm going to Firkin your Firkin, you're just never going to activate it. Now here, we could get a Yoink. Pull these two in, which accomplishes little to nothing. Given that this is now out of position, you don't even necessarily have the damage to kill the cowbell. Wait, did this... Did Big She undo this? What just happened? That had to have been a mistake, right? Like, they hit undo too many times? Oh, no. No! That can't possibly be what you intended to do. All right, chat, big brain time. Big brain plays. What is Big She have in mind? Because I'm not going to lie, I did not see that coming. That was absolutely not what I thought was going to happen. Big She with 4 keys remaining, 10 for Hakune, and now all of a sudden, this doesn't look terrible. Granted, there's probably a trap or two lurking around here. Your Stabby now got the stuffing beat out of it. And we get a Cassowary as the 5th Phobie, 2 keys remaining. What is Hakune going to go over the top with? Because while this Mildred is turned off temporarily, 700 health. You can't kill this, unfortunately. Yeah, 10 keys. There's still a lot of things that can come out of Hakune's bag of tricks. I'm not really clear why this is retreating. Hakune is playing uncharacteristically defensively. Hakune is most commonly pushing for aggressive play. It's happening, chat. It's happening! Is Akira the answer here? I don't know. This is gonna get real weird real fast. Is there even enough damage to make this matter? Okay, so here's the thing. If you don't move the Akira, which I don't think is... They should have... I think Hakune needed Akira here. Is it going to help Mildred? I think the plan is to blow up Mildred in one turn. Because remember, Akira has an AoE attack. You have 3 range and AoE, at least from the pull here. You have a lob. You have this. It is possible. If Akira was here, you yoink... Then you yoink again. Yo, that guy is mad. I think you can possibly blow up the Mildred in a single turn right now. I think that's what's being set up. Unfortunately, this is not where you needed stuff to be. Again, the Akira needed to be here, I think. That being said, like, this doesn't seem bad for Hakune. This doesn't seem bad. You have better cooldowns at this point. Your opponent's never going to get... Well, maybe not never, but it's unlikely they get close enough. I like the kill in this fashion. So the Stabby still goes down, but then they trade the Cassowary out. The Stabby should go down. 15 tons of cats. 6 of one, half dozen the other there. 2 keys to 1 key. Now remember, this is a small map. 4930 on the heart to 5200. Hakune can sit with a 2-to-1 panic point disadvantage for some time. Allowing the Akira to come back up, allowing the Attractor to come back up, and then you go from there. Now, what I think Big She really needs to do is make sure that this time you do power down one of these things. Like, you can't just let this thing go off again. Whether it's Firkin, whether it's Akira, whether it's Attractor, it doesn't matter. Big Shi's Firkin has big zoning ability. I think as Hakune, you dive right now. This is a dive turn. You can't hold back. I think, like, Akira goes here and starts hitting things. It has 1,300 health. It's not... Well, actually, it will die. Never mind. It probably will die. The combination of these three would yield a dead Akira. So you can't really push. You probably have to push up a little bit, because you can't avoid the Firkin. You just straight up can't. There's no way to dodge it. If it's here, 1, 2, 3, 4, it hits this arc. So, like, is this a legal space? I don't think this is a legal space right here. Numbskull, the final phobie out of Hakune. I think with slightly better positioning 2 turns ago, the Akira pull turn. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, you know why? Hakune could not put the Akira here, because I think the Firkin was here on that turn. If it was, that means Akira was vulnerable to getting turned off. Firkin on the Firkin. I don't think Numbskull is what you want here. Hakune can kill Mildred, I think. Akira pull, Attractor pull. So Mildred's in front of the Firkin position. What matters after that is I don't know if the damage is enough to kill Mildred. It depends on how much poison and whether Hakune gets another, or excuse me, whether Big Shi gets another kitty littering off. You have to put Akira, like, here. Yeah. And you can't move up at all from this stage. Now, Big Shi is now out of keys. 2 1 keys to supplement their forces. Combating the Numbskull here. Spiky Beetle, Spiky. Oh, for the turn where they used Akira? Yeah, I think that it was possible to get Mildred that turn. But maybe it wasn't. We'd have to go back and look at it. So we can get a Mildred pull here, but that's only going to let it land here. Because remember, Akira's not active yet. Now, with a triple panic point advantage, all bets are off. And the problem here is that you can't, as you can see, that is not a legal space. Okay, Mildred retreated. I was going to say, like, there just aren't enough places to move that are going to be out of Mildred range. Because you need it to take as much poison damage as possible in order for you to actually eliminate the Mildred. You're just low on damage at this stage. That's an enormous amount of damage coming in. 35-30 at this stage. I don't think it really matters how you kill it, but this is clearly dead. I don't think this goes here. Maybe it does. Whoop. Sorry, my phone's going off. Hopefully the mic didn't pick that up too much. That Henrietta poison will end in 2064. I mean, yes. What's funny is it's already gotten 5 ticks. It's gone off 5 turns already. I think Akune's doing the math of this being full health, which it will be if it gets another direct, which of course it'll be direct, a direct kitty littering off. But now this is live. We do in fact have a live Akira. We have a live Attractor. It is entirely possible for this Mildred to now die. It gets pulled to here. If you go here, you get pulled forward. I don't know. I don't think it has enough. You have to pick everything else off. This is going to be an incredibly delicate situation for Hakune to dance around because you need to just... You can't get hit by Mildred. Duh, right? But you have to eliminate everything else, and that is entirely possible. Like, Numbskull swings in here, and I think Big Shi's plan here is nothing can die. As long as you just represent a threat, you can probably claim the panic points and then just end the game. Yeah, I think this... that didn't work out how I... This makes sense. You need to get closer so that you can connect with things. I don't like this. So this is going to just one-shot the attractor and be back at full health. There had to have been a better sequence here, because this is not going to do it. I don't think this is what you want. This is definitely going to be one we have to go back and look at and examine, because that doesn't seem... That's rough. Back up to 1,500 health. 800 represented here, 375 here, but you still have to cap 2 panic points. And I don't know that as Hakune, you can kill everything fast enough. Even to get the panic points, let alone avoid the Mildred hits. It's not impossible, I don't think. But the 2 Akira turns, I think, were... I mean, they were the big problem, right? 1895. I don't think... Like, the Mildred could probably walk up to here just to body block out the Firkin, and then you can't kill the... You can't get the panic points back fast enough. You're taking 600 damage a turn. I mean, maybe this is still doable. But Akune must... You know what's going to happen? I don't know. I could see this game ending because the Firkin has to occupy a point, and then something walks up and kills the Firkin and just gets pulled onto the point, and the game ends. I don't think there's any way for Akune to win this. Because you have to send Firkin here, you have to send Akira here. You can't kill this, you can't kill this. So Mildred moves here, Kitty litterings, claims the panic point, and you're dead. Or you could just do it this way, and then the Firkin occupies it. What are you doing? GG. GG. Very well played, both players. GG. Impressive. Most impressive. But we do, in fact, have our first semifinals in the books. Big Shi advances. So the players are getting the next semifinal ready. Did not expect Akira would come out. What could he have done instead of Akira? That's a good question, but I think ultimately... I think the numbskull was problematic, first of all. I know that's not directly answering the question, but I think there were... Like, the 2 big Akira turns, obviously, I think it was just a matter of timing. Hakune has said before that planning out the Akira pulls, and clearly it wasn't quite working out as initially expected, because Hakune wouldn't have done some of those tests otherwise. Akira in a small map seems way harder to be used good than in a big map. It's possible. Because the thing is, you need certain elements to happen. I don't know what other big phobie... Like, I'm surprised in neither of those games we saw Hivo 3.0. Now, Hivo is not necessarily very good into Mildred specifically, But I think it allows you, like as we saw at the end of game 2, Hakune was able to pick off the surrounding characters. So if those other Phobies went down, it's possible that you leave just Mildred on the board, and then Hakune needed like one more turn kind of thing. They were forced to advance on that last turn, and that's kind of what did him in. So our first map ban came in, Hold Still from A Markin. So let's take a look at the pool while we're waiting. So Hold Still has been a very commonly banned map, which I mentioned yesterday. I was a little taken aback by. I thought most people enjoyed this map, so it's a little surprising that it's been getting removed. We'll put the bigger screen on when we get into the game. Once we actually get into the game, we'll put the bigger screen on. So the next one in is Phobos. That one is less surprising. Pretty much everybody hates Phobos. So Phobos is out of the picture. So the question now becomes, what are those were both A Markin bans, by the way. So it now is a question of what are Strahd's bans? We still have a whole big swath of the pool, but in the previous series, Rush Hour and Always Watching were the other bans. We'll see if that comes down this time around as well. Some of us like Phobos. I know there's a few. There's a few stalwarts that are Phobos fans. They are absolutely few and far between. All right, Always Watching also going to bite the dust, getting banned. So what is our fourth and final map ban for this semifinal? And Step Right Up. So we have most of the small maps available and Rush Hour, which was a common pick for A Markin through the Swiss. I saw multiple A Markin games where Heartbreaker made an appearance. Heartbreaker made an appearance, and then bad news. Bad news for the person on the other end of that. So we'll see what the players have in mind here. I'm gonna have to do a lot of editing to cut out the silence and stuff, chat. You're one of the few that isn't annoyed by Phobos? Fair. All right, the pick is, in fact, Rush Hour. So we're getting a Rush Hour game. This is A Markin's pick. And as mentioned, I know that I saw Heartbreakers yesterday. We'll see if anyone's heart gets broken this time. Okay, the players are ready. We're gonna get started momentarily. I'd have to see the board position there, Onda. I don't think the Kiva will go up. Because the way that Akira pulled, it was a line of 4 with a tractor at the farthest right point of that line. I think Onda's talking about the first turn that you yoinked, Hakune. I don't think you can get the positioning you're talking about. I think it is still possible to get everything that turn, but I don't think it works that way. Here we go. We're jumping in. Strahd and A Markin, our second semifinal This was an A Markin pick, Strahd going first. Let's see what the players have in store. We already have a unique opener in Sarkassin. How often do you see Sarkassin? And I remembered, well, I remembered to switch. Chat didn't have to remind me, but I didn't do it quick enough. We get a little Sarkassin action to start off on Rush Hour. Now, as mentioned, you know, like 7 times that I've said it, we've seen a lot of Heartbreaker out of A Markin as of late on this map. I don't know if that is now their go-to game plan, or it just happened to materialize yesterday as, hey, this is an opportunity to utilize Heartbreaker. We're going to have to see. Now, I know I'll be taking notes, personally, mental notes. I got to write it down eventually because my brain can't hold it anymore. Because Rush Hour is a map that I think is fine. This is a very acceptable map. I don't think there's too many problems with it. Overall, it does tend to lean stalematey, in my opinion. But I think there are aggressive ways to make things work on this map. But I don't personally really have a set game plan as I do on many others. So what do they have in store here? We're getting a unicorn out of Strahd. I love the big, dumb smile from Ted in the avatar, by the way. It makes me giggle. We're getting a very aggressive Jin Sting that is... Is it really that aggressive? This is safe. This is completely safe. It yields a dead cat, and I can tell you right now, I think Strahd thought that that cat could not be touched. Now, the retaliation hit is probably going to be kill the snowball because there's no point in even poisoning this. It can just walk it off. All right, we're going for it anyway. Never mind. It is a big poison, but this Jin Sting is going to sit on this spa. And maybe both of these... Okay, snowball at least walks away, but the Sarkassin is definitely going to die, right? Unless this dies. All right, we do get the Klepto. So now the Jin Sting has to risk its own demise if it stays. And I highly doubt we're going to get an aggressive Klepto here. Bees versus spiders. We got Discovery Channel or Animal Planet, whichever you prefer, going down right here. Right now. Curious about the HP? 430 at level 1. So it will tank even... bees, because it's only 370. Get a little Animal Planet action. I miss it, watching Animal Planet and stuff like that when I was a kid. So we get a little toe action, going from Animal Planet to a medical documentary, I guess. A creepy toe action. The game is afoot. You're afoot. I don't know what we're talking about here. Stabby is a follow-up. I don't mind Stabby on this map overall. But instead we're going to get Gonzo, which I think we can all respect. The Gonzo. I was trying to incorporate a Muppets joke because, you know, Gonzo the Muppet, Gonzo the Great, but I couldn't think of it quickly enough. So instead, I just kind of stuttered in silence. So we're getting a matching panic point set here. Ooh, we're getting an aggressive... is this dead? 7. 13... I'm pretty sure this is dead. Huh. All right, that is a bold move, Cotton. I'm like 90% sure that this Klepto is just dead. And safely dead. You hit twice with this, you hit with this, you juice the Klepto, and I think that's enough damage. Ouchtown population Strahd, or more accurately, Strahd's Klepto. The Vampire Lord, unfortunately, an error was made. We'll see if they can pull this back. There's still a lot of keys available. 15 for our blue player, 20 for our orange player with Hevo 1.0. Plain old tin can Hevo. He just hates being called that, though. Showing up and threatening the rest of the board. So we have some damage phobies for Strahd, some 1 keys. Still a 3-to-1 panic point advantage, though. There is that going for Strahd. Yeah, Sarcassin here is fine as a 1 key overall. But its poison is arguably irrelevant because the spa is very defensively positioned. I mean, anybody who's played this map, the spa gets used a lot in general. The poison's completely irrelevant. It's just never going to matter. So the question is, where did the trap go down? It's possible there's one here or here. I doubt it's here or here, and it's probably not on the defensive lava tiles. It is possible Strahd is holding on to it, but that remains to be seen. Inoculus coming down, supplementing the forces, making it 6 Phobies to 5. I don't hate it. In fact, Sargassum feels more to just force a Markin into not playing Undead. I could kind of see that, but there aren't too many Undead that you... Like, what Undead in particular are you going to play on this map? If it's a 1 key, the poison's irrelevant, because it's like, your 1 key is just going to croak no matter what. Like, who cares if it's Contortio? Cassowary, okay. Murderwing, probably not going to be in range. Unbearable, you're probably not even playing that. Daisy, alright, well, Daisy, because of Resurrection, you almost don't care about the poison. We do have a bunch of damage going down here. I don't think this is dead, but this is a very, very beat-up Hevo. Unfortunately, beat up is not destroyed, so therefore this Hevo can take a trip to the spa for... Ooh, no, this is a great heads-up play. Strahd... No, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... No, you don't have enough... This is why I didn't think of it. There aren't enough slots open for Strahd to break the block and then pop out a jar to finish this off. It would have been a great play. Like, that would have been really cool. Can't quite do it. A little womp-womp moment. A little womp-womp action there. That's a great play if it happens. It would have been great. Like, that was a really cool heads-up play. But Strahd was only 2 moves ahead and not the 3 they needed because one of these had to die before then. Sarcassin, despite the heal, eats it. Big shock. Hevo said, I'm getting beat up. Big brother, come to the rescue. Big bro is going to show up, lay the smackdown. It's in fact Evo 3.0. Everybody's invited to the Molotov cocktail party. Strahd with 11 keys available. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phobies, so 2 slots open. It's going to be tough here. I'm not sure what Strahd's answer is to this Hevo. Bro just called us Big Bro. We need 2.0. Everybody always wants to see the whole Hevo family. This is very aggressive. We don't have Fireball up. We do have AWOL. So this is likely a dead Jin Sting. But we're going to lose Unicorn, obviously. Possibly lose the Inoculus also, to be honest. Because, in fact, Gonzo is live. So, 450 plus another 300. Not quite a dead Inoculus, but it's gonna wish it was, because it's gonna take a beating. Sparky to try and defend the Inoculus. To be honest, I feel like I'd rather have a more aggressive Sparky positioning. And Jinsting chewing up the bank here. Only 5 keys remaining for our blue player. Still 11. Only 6 available, but 11 total for our orange player. So how aggressive does Amarkin want to be? Obviously, the toe here is going to die to lava, but it may be worth breaking it open so that way you could get a hit here with something, a Klepto here. The problem is if Hevo goes here, it's going to be wide open to the Sparky and potential follow-up. Alright, so we do get the toe going down to a jar. That leaves the damage Hevo to clear out the Unicorn. We're getting a juiced Klepto diving here. It is highly unlikely there's a trap here, and this means, yep. Racking up the kills, Amarkin here. Just racking them up. Like, look at this. This kind of tells the tale of the game thus far. A little tickles action. Of course, it will help with the traps, but to be honest, I don't know how important that is. Right now, given the board position, I think Amarkin can kind of just push and bully our blue player. Even if the Sparky comes in, I mean, this is a dead Klepto, or should be. It's going to take some significant effort to actually clean it up, however. Down goes the Klepto. There might be 2 more Phobies coming out. In fact, it will be. It's going to be Hydra and... I don't know about the Hydra here. And Electrocat. All right. Those are all the keys for our blue player. How is our orange player going to respond? They don't quite... They need the cooldowns. So they need Gonzo back up to really push a lot of damage. And the Hydra with 2,900 health, or, well, 2,900 now because of the fire, 3,000 health to start at level 1. It's tanky enough to represent a decent threat. I don't really understand the Gonzo repositioning here. I guess it's better than being here. I don't know that it even needed to move. It probably could have gone here. So instead, we're getting a Honey Bear out of Amarkin. That is interesting. Obviously can deal with the traps. The early dead egg boy is what cost him so much. Yeah, it definitely didn't help, I can tell you that much. Losing that Klepto early on absolutely hurt. But yeah, this is more likely, I agree with chat, more panic point pressure than it is to deal with the traps. It's just kind of added bonus. Quick takedown here, but of course Amarkin does have extra keys available, even if this Electrocat goes in to claim this point. Now, Strahd does have some time to play around with a massive life total lead, although with 4,800 health, even if these were to flip, Amarkin has roughly a myriad to just do whatever they need to. Just not under an enormous amount of pressure. But if this Hydra can get into position, there is the opportunity for Strahd to make something happen. But it's going to be very difficult given the early losses, given the deficit that they are at. Can't click on the vault. There we go. Admittedly, it is evening out. Like, this seems like a lot, but remember, there are 3 1 keys and the unicorn. A couple 1 keys and then 2 significant phobies. I just don't know how they're actually going to plow through the Hevo, and of course, when Gonzo's active, you have to honor everything at that point. This is actually pretty crucial if a marking decides to go for it. Reason being is that, as mentioned by chat, if you turn off the healing spa here, now this Sparky is much more vulnerable. Gonzo's not available yet, and we get the final phobia out of our orange player. It's in fact everyone's favorite or least favorite phobia, Stabby. Because now, all of a sudden, everything on our orange player side of the board is a big threat. And it's a 3-to-1 panic point advantage, so our blue player is going to be pushed into pushing. They have time, they can set up, but they don't have forever. And this is soon to be a full health Evo. Everyone's favorite voodoo doll? It may not even be their favorite voodoo doll. Getting the repositioning here, I don't anticipate that the Hevo is going to come in, but it could. You get double hits here, a hit here. Hevo could come in. It's not going to be 2,900, but it will be a big chunk. Max phobies to merely 5. I'm trying to find ways to say, oh, well, this is the path that Strahd takes to take this game back. And I think it's going to revolve around setting up a chain of Baba Yaga hits. Traps, obviously. And hoping that that is significant enough. It's not the only AoE. I guess you have bees also, but not a ton of damage on this side of the board, given that a lot of it is concentrated in the Hydra, and the Hydra is just going to be exceptionally difficult to get it to connect. The jar is somewhat exposed. It could just die to the Sparky, but that means that the Sparky in turn probably just eats it. We're getting the great reshuffling here just to get some additional heals in. Definitely makes sense. Every advantage is in our orange player's possession, so there's no need to rush anything, no need to force anything. So how is Strahd going to play this? Getting aggressive here, looking like they're going to push after. I don't think you have enough damage, do you? That is actually not enough damage unless there's a trap here that is somehow going to go off, which I don't know how that would happen. It's a good thought, but not quite enough damage between these two to yield the dead Hevo. Dead Hevo. You could call this aggressive going in by A Markand here with the tickles, but, well, I guess they're not going to do it. The ever adorable tickles. Really? How often do you see Gonzo activate on... Okay, it's not happening. I was about to say. As I've said on other occasions, I feel like we're just kind of rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. This game definitely seems like it's absolutely an A-Markin's court, and it's just up to A-Markin to find a way to throw for the game to resolve in a fashion that is not a victory for them. I don't... We may just be here a while, chat, so... I hope you brought a snack, got some popcorn or something, because this one may go on for a while as we shuffle around, because Strahd is clearly not going to walk their stuff in. And A-Markin doesn't really have an incentive to dive. What kind of bugs do you guys eat again? We're back to that. It's been a while. It's been a while. We haven't talked about eating bugs in a very long time, chat. Now, the only advantage I guess Strahd has at this stage, since this clock is going to take a significant amount of time, is the Baba Yaga can set all this up. The challenge is, yeah, eventually something like this is going to happen. Dead cat. This Hevo, I have to imagine this was calculated by A-Markin, and this Hevo will survive. This is 775 plus another 700 plus 370. Unless there are traps here, which is unlikely, I anticipate this is still very much a live Hevo, and this has got to be the game. You commonly eat spider for fun. Literally have the recipe of grilled tarantula. Ooh, there is a trap. Forget about eating tarantulas. Is there enough damage to kill this Hevo now? I'll be honest, I'm not sure it matters, but maybe. You gotta try, right? Not enough. Despite the trap, not enough damage because Jin Sting only 370 damage even if it came down here on the lava. Dead stabby, though. Dead stabby, though. Maybe not. In fact, it is. I know I don't have a lot of extra to add to this one, but excuse me. I think we've seen what we're going to see for game one. That Hydra not in very healthy shape. In fact, Gonzo is going to take it down, or at least Gonzo assisted takedown. Presumably, this is somehow going to be a dead Sparky. Yep. And then swing the jar in. Even get the Honey Bear Puke in order to save the Hevo. And then there were two. There are probably traps here. There is, in fact, a trap, but it's not going to be good enough. Ball game. Game one goes to A-Markin. So we have game one in the books for semifinal number 2. Let's see what the bands look like. Or the map pick, rather. Excuse me. You already got the bands. So this will be Strahd's pick. We'll have to see what they come up with. Because unfortunately, it might have been nerves, might have been other factors, but ultimately did not go well for one of our players in the beginning of that particular game. All right, so Strahd is choosing to go to Biff's room. Here we go. Jumping into Game 2, Strahd trying to pull it back on their map pick of Biff's room. Let's see what we've got. Let's see what we've got. Again, with the Sockassin opener, this is kind of interesting. I don't know if this is Strahd showing off. I don't know if Strahd has something in particular in mind, or as mentioned by chat in the last game, maybe this is to try and push a Markand off of, say, Undead. Because this is a very high rate of poison and will take down a lot of things pretty quickly, or at least cut them down to size. Now, since this is Strahd's pick, I have to imagine that there's a particular strategy they have in mind, and we are seeing an early Gravedigger, which I definitely like on this map. I tend to start off more with turrets. Get Stabby into position, get Bowmangles into position, really just Stabby, and then try and bring in a Gravedigger later. But we are seeing the Gravedigger inch its way up to this spot, presumably to break here, and then maybe interact with something else, or at least threaten a big old meat cleaver chop. So Stabby, as we're getting the turrets coming in. Ooh, we're actually getting the aggressive block here. This locks out the Stabby for some time. We get a big poison going down that will be lethal on this Unicorn if it is left on here. Now, of course, a Markand could pop a Muffin. Going to take some rearranging. The Sockassin will pay with its life. The combination of these 1 keys should kill it. All right, never mind. We're not doing that play. I don't hate that line. That seems as though it's a completely reasonable take. However, I imagine the concern here was that the Gravedigger was going to die. Combination of these 3. But I don't think there was enough surface area. Then again, it would be this, so it would be 6, 7, 20,000. So like a jar popping out with these 2 would be a dead Gravedigger. And I can understand wanting to preserve it, instead electing to break this block and bring out their own Stabby. Very reasonable. A Markand with the 1 key advantage, electing to claim the center, definitely makes sense. And we do, in fact, get the jar to supplement, despite the earlier play not coming down. I'm a little surprised by the fact that there isn't a Unicorn advance to hit this one, soften it up even further. But we do have a 2-to-1 panic point advantage for our orange player at this stage. I guess this is fine. All right, Unicorn taking a defensive position. Stabby ready to cover, but we do not have anything to claim the center yet. Unless this Sockassin is going to sacrifice its life. Now, realistically, as we mentioned in some of the other games, we're just going to be swapping back and forth. Neither player has banked, so we're not going to see anything big yet. But we definitely have a little indecision coming out of our blue player at this stage. I think swapping out the Bachelor is a correct choice. If I recall correctly, on level, Unicorn traps will eat the Bachelor. So there is the risk that the Bachelor steps in the wrong spot and then just implodes. That's a free spider kill. That didn't need to happen. That was not required. That spider could have been up here. and then been safe. This is starting, I mean, we'll see if it continues this way. Strahd is banked to 5. A-Markin not choosing to bank, maxing out their team instead. Or not. But in the previous game, we saw Strahd hemorrhage early on several phobies that could have been very useful. Is the Spud your final answer? I don't hate Spud here. Obviously forces the departure of the Unicorn. This might be a dead Stabby if Strahd really wants it. The problem is, I think this Stabby is going to end up... I guess it's not too vulnerable. Stabby goes down, bunch of damage here, but it will take some effort. You can't trivially kill this Stabby, and the cat will obviously be vulnerable as well. Stairmaster is the follow-up. Stairmaster is the follow-up. Not something you typically see. It's not the follow-up, never mind. It's everyone's favorite snot monster, it's Quagmire. Level 1 Quagmire, looking at a little Boggle Bath action. Walking right into the fray. So how many phobies die on Strahd's side? Obviously the Corn was dead. The Cowbell's probably dead. Gravedigger and Stabby survive the onslaught. But Strahd is in a decent position to secure this particular advantage. And possibly even press it. 800 damage here plus this is 1175. Not quite enough to kill the Spud up here, because this is only going to be 775 to the 900, but you could collapse on the Unicorn and risk some traps. Of course, you also now risk the retaliation. Spud and Gesundheit, as well as Jar, are going to shell everything. So we do now get the block that was attempted earlier by Strahd. And since A-Markin's max out, there's no Gravedigger that can come to the rescue. Although I don't know that they would necessarily be looking for that. Instead, it's just going to be beat up the block. And we get a little Ted action to supplement. I don't know about the Ted. I'm not super excited about that. What do we need to see? I mean, I would want to see Strahd. Probably, to be honest, you'd be better off just straight up banking. I think it would have been better to keep the Stabby here. Where the Quagmire is. You could have put Quagmire down here, and then it could slide up to interact here. Would not be able to hit the Gesundheit. But I feel like you need to be able to snipe this. That being said, you can't be too aggressive because, of course, A-Markin is going to be able to drop a 7 key or larger on your head very soon. Quick removal of the cat. Sure. This scenario is starting to become very precarious because this area probably has 2 traps, soon to be 3. I wonder if we'll see the other Hevo or the other doll. Wait, which other doll? Oopsie Baby? Oopsie Baby probably wouldn't be terrible here. It's effectively going to turn one of these off. I think at level 1 it's 375. Somebody would have to correct me. I was going to say, if the Spud stays there, it's probably dead. No, instead we get Motherload. Walking right up into the fray. No fear. Only 3 keys remaining for a Markin. I could see a Clinico coming out. I didn't know a Markin was known for Oopsie Baby. Erratic is the answer from Strahd, maxing out their own team. That's not the 7-key mech I expected. Gesundheit behind for melee, yep. Gotta protect the Gesundheit. Panic points flip, although obviously Ted is not really going to hold the fort, resurrection or not. Going to be fairly trivial to take this down. I'm not entirely sure how this Erratic is going to get into position to make this happen. But, again, 2-to-1 panic point advantage at worst if a Markin flips this. And right now they're going to have to sacrifice something relevant, or make something vulnerable that is relevant, if they want to take this back, given that they maxed out their team. You should probably get the walk away here. How aggressive do you want to be right now? Apparently very aggressive. Huh. I mean, Motherload is pretty damn tanky. And that's a dead stabby. Good play with the Spud in order to make sure that nothing gets pulled wildly out of position. You can't even kill the Corn. Can't even kill the Corn here. Only 2 keys, so you can't even pop out a jar to try and help snipe. Erratic, of course, has to walk in, do erratic things. That block is okay, I guess. I mean, I understand why it's there. Cassowary, the final Phobie, still 3 keys remaining for a Markand. Like, I understand the block, but I don't know if it's going to make too much of a difference. Yeah, I don't know that the AoE is valuable enough there. It does help break the block, so that way you can open things up for your own ranged Phobies, but this is going to be a dead Gravedigger. Get some chip damage here on the Erratic, and then all of a sudden your opponent with only 3 Phobies has to fight into your 5 and extra keys. Very much a less than ideal situation. Erratic impotently cooking the statue. Those 3 keys are for Clinico? Yes, I would imagine they are. I would imagine that they are. Oddly enough, even if Erratic were to get double hits on, like double direct hits onto the Motherload, it's still not enough damage to kill it. Bad sushi. Get a little bad-mannered sushi. This one's similar to the last game. I think the last game that Strahd might have been in a better position for parts of it after it started looking bad. I know this is a weird way to phrase it, but this does not look good at all. Right now, Strahd, or excuse me, a Markand has everything in range to annihilate whatever steps on here, and then even once, assuming this panic point gets reclaimed, and you blow it up, you still have keys. It's just, yeah. I'm not really sure how Strahd gets out of this, unfortunately. 0 keys left, no real way to invade. What they're doing is probably correct, given the positioning, like, ball up, try and bully your opponent out of position. But realistically, I think you're just... This is actually hilarious if you go for that. Yeah, I don't think that's really worth it. It would be hilarious to be that aggressive, but I don't think that's your safe play. The safe play here is just let them come to you. Even if these two hit the mother load, I think you can still blow this up. There's only 1,800. There's 1,000 damage right here. If I'm a Markand, I bait an attack into the mother load by doing exactly this, because the mother load will survive the hits from these. $1,600, so 8, 11, 13. They have to body block with the Quagmire to keep the Erratic alive. Otherwise, you can hit with this and one each of these to eliminate it, and then, like, there's your whole team is dead. Plus, you can then walk away. And you might even be able to kill the Quagmire if it's there. 2 hits, 2 hits, 1 hit, 2 hits, 1 hit. Down to 3,200 health. The clock is naturally much faster on the small maps than on the large ones, that is. This feels like this is just rearranging so that you can get more traps. I don't know that you want this exposed. Well, I guess it doesn't matter. You can probably kill the Quagmire even if it was in this position. Playing it safe instead so you don't lose anything. Like I said, if you're our blue player, you can try and bunch up, bully things out, but I don't know that you're going to represent enough damage from anything to do much here. That's 930, 1430, 1850, 2180. I may have miscounted, but I think you're just shy of killing this. Which may not matter. It may be worth staying. Well, you probably don't want to leave the mother load to die. But now the Quagmire's softened up, and I just don't know how you... I mean, you could pull back and try and heal it up, but there aren't that many turns left. Now, Erratic can get a shot here. I don't think the splash is enough. It's not quite enough to kill the Unicorn. 71 health remaining. That means that this should die. You could body block with the Quagmire, but then the Quagmire will eat it. I'm stating the same stuff, but I just don't know how Strahd gets out of this. You're going to end up sacrificing one of these two in order to do anything of value. I don't think that's what you want. I think this thing is dead now. There it goes. And then there were two. It's all over but the crying, chat. That's really the only way to put this one. Jar surviving with 4 health. Do get the takedown on the Gesundheit. Unfortunately, a trap here, meaning it's going to be the solo erratic show very shortly. GG is correct. It's actually the solo cassowary show, and then there were none. GG, we have our finals. We have our finals. Big She versus A. Markin for the finals of Fright Night number 7. So we're going to take a quick break, chat. We'll just give 5 minutes, let the players recoup. Take a quick break, and then we will jump into the finals. All right, so the bands are underway for our finals. Big She and A. Markin. Big She leads off with bands of Phobos and Always Watching. So Phobos is gone, so is Always Watching. We'll see what A. Markin counters with here. Now, Big She, of course, leading off with the Mildred in that semifinals, whereas A. Markin kind of just did quote-unquote normal stuff and was able to take their win. So we get a map ban on Detention, so there are going to be big maps available. I have to wonder, is A. Markin concerned about the Mildred strategy and trying to elect to remove smaller maps so that Mildred on the small maps is not as much of a potential? And Megalo. So Detention, Megalo, Always Watching, Phobos. Those are our 4 map bans. Let's see what the actual selection is for the first map. We're going to Hold Still, chat. I don't think this is going to be a Mildred map, but we'll have to see where this comes out. A. Markin versus Big She coming up. Finals of Fright Night number 7, Big She, A. Markin, Hold Still. Let's see who finally takes it down and is declared our champion. So Big She elected for this map, which is interesting given the success that they've already had with Mildred on all them small maps. Definitely making it look really cool. But in this particular case, we're on Hold Still, bigger map, opening up with the Gravedigger. A. Markin instead deciding to go with a little snowball action to lead off. What are the other 3 keys going to be? It was originally a Murder Wing, but instead, it's a little bit of indecision. Little bit of indecision here. I think the Gravedigger opener is reasonable. I don't know that it is required. I think Terraform on this map definitely makes your life easier. I think you can definitely win without it. But I think that you're just causing more difficulty for yourself by skipping it. Or presenting it late. Also a potential situation. Now, in this case, we are seeing a Hevo coming out from our blue player, no bank, but A. Markin went 3-1, meaning they have 7 keys available. There has to be something in particular they have in mind, and this is a pretty solid Hevo 2.0 map. Now, our orange player is going to be able to take an early panic point lead, but we're instead getting Crushmore. We're instead getting Crushmore coming out. Or not. We're getting a little Ray Chargels action. Ray Chargels at level 1, still a significant threat to mechanical, 700 damage, counting the electrical damage. Not quite, like, it's not going to one-shot this Hevo, but it is going to put a big hurt on it. I've decided Terraform is not required here, but I prefer it anyway to supplement the other shenanigans I want to do. That's kind of where I'm at. I think you can come up with completely reasonable gameplay, completely reasonable strategies on this map that don't necessitate terraform. But I think terraform just makes your life easier in a lot of scenarios, or at least for me. Because I was absolutely, like, not dead set against it, but pretty close initially when this map first appeared. And I've come around to the idea of just like, all right, well, if I'm going to do this, I could jump through 10 hoops or I could just terraform. Big She not bringing out the signature Firkin just yet. But here it is now. Preemptively getting it ready. I don't know that this is a great Mildred map. Obviously, boops, yoinks can come out. You might be able to turn them off with the Firkin. But Firkin in general is a strong asset. You can turn off a whole lot of powerful phobies from your opponent's side of the board. And we are, in fact, getting the terraform. All the keys getting sunk into this Crushmore. Even panic point setup, but our orange player could take the center and then retake with their other one key, if they decide to. But not representing a huge amount of damage onto this Hevo just yet, unless, for some reason, Big She just walks it up right into the face of Ray Chargels. I don't know why, but Firkin is hilarious to me when it moves. It just, it's so dumb, but it's funny. So what's the supplement from Big She with 5 keys, or 6 keys rather? Cassowary is part of it. A team of 5 versus a team of 5 right now. Are you gonna bank? You could put another 1 key on the board and then go into Mildred if you really wanted to, but again, I'm not sure Mildred is the appropriate thing here. Now, given that A. Markin does have access to Heartbreaker, I've mentioned that a few times in the previous games, the Firkin could be a preemptive anti-Heartbreaker. Heartbreaker is very relevant on this map, even if you can't get, oops, I dropped your guy in the bottomless pit. There's also just simply the ability to reposition something and just annihilate it. Just absolutely explode it. The counter Firkin, we did see this earlier. Big She versus Hakune. Didn't quite work out for Hakune here. 2 out of 10 games needs more sucky. We could all do with a little more sucky in our games. Can't complain too much about that, right? We'll see if the counter Firkin here yields more value for A. Markin than it did in the earlier games. But Big She is in fact banked up to 9, and I imagine this preemptive Firkin, which is the 6th phobie for our orange player, is an attempt to try and push away any Mildred or other shenanigans coming out of Big She. But what is the long-term game plan here? I mean, Big She has very much been on this Mildred strategy, this Mildred train for a while. It doesn't appear that's the route they want to go now. Instead, it's Noxious, and given what's available on the board, not a bad idea. You do have only 6 phobies on the board as Big She, so if you force, say, an early healer, a Clinico, a Bluelian, something like that out of A. Markin, maybe you can capitalize on that by going over the top, since our orange player now has been manipulated into that position. They will be maxed out on phobies if they take that route. And of course, there are multiple 3 to be, in fact, dimensionals. We got a couple monsters, and obviously there's a cowbell, but Snowball, Crushmore, and Firkin are all salient dimensionals that would be great to connect on. Just getting some repositioning. Big She notably did bank, as mentioned, leaving open the opportunity to bring something into supplement to counter whatever A. Markin's answer is to the combination of Noxious and Firkin here. We are getting a buildup of forces in the north. I don't expect that we're going to get, say, a hard push out of Big She, but I guess it's not impossible. Both terraforms will be available shortly. Obviously, A. Markins is already with 11 keys, by the way, whereas we got one more turn for Big She. Nobody's interested in taking this center panic point at the moment. A. Markins' big winning play is Russell. I don't know about that one. Depending on what Big She puts on the board, I mean, it might not be bad, but I don't know that Russell is really where you want to be at the moment. 2 undead, 1 dimensional. I don't even know that Russell will spell the demise of the Gravedigger. I think it's 200 damage at level 1. So it would kill the Cassowary. It would not kill the Gravedigger. At the pace of this game so far, it might work out. I mean, there is that. There is that. But the thing is that with the ability to, I mean, A, summon another Phobie, so a healer, and B, sacrifice a Phobie to get a different healer, you know. So this does open A. Markin's Leapercarn to Big She's. And in fact, we do get the Heartbreaker. So here's the big question. Does Big She Firkin the Firkin? Or does Big She hold off in the hopes that you can connect with the Heartbreaker? This is kind of the flipped scenario of what we saw in the first semifinals, where Big She... Chat, you called it! You called it, chat! There is, in fact, a Russell. And to be honest, I like it a lot. Russell! I like it a lot better on Big She. Russell! Russell! YouTube is going to go ballistic. Russell! 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 Oh my god, chat. Russell! I should never have lowered the Russell! Oh my god. I should just make that the intro. I don't usually put intros on the Fright Night ones, but... So, I was originally saying that we had a flip scenario where it's Firkin versus Firkin plus threat. However, now it's Firkin threat, and I think Russell is way stronger for Big She right now than it is for... He can't Firkin the Russell because the Firkin got Firked by the Firkin. How's that for a sentence? So, there are, again, now there are 4 dimensionals. And A. Markin is absolutely forced into, like, this play. They have to let something die so that they can free up for a healer. Russell! The Caw! So I imagine, I don't know if A. Markin has it, but I imagine a Blue Lion comes out and then you just spend however many turns it takes to rotate everything onto the spa. And then the Russell is arguably invalidated. It will still take time. And maybe Big She can still leverage it. Max Phobies at the moment? Yes, I'm operating under the assumption that this cat dies this turn, which... It appears Big She is willing, and appropriately, willing to just accept the heart damage because you don't have to kill it. Now, A. Markin did position correctly because that means that this Crushmore can threaten something here, so you can't just go, oh, well, I'll plop Russell here because then Russell's going to take a ton of damage. Ooh, we're getting the aggro play onto Crushmore. I do like this. I think this is correct. You need to threaten things. The whole point of Russell is you soften things up, so you need to get the other damage where you can. Now, the problem here is this a dead Noxious? This is just a dead Noxious if they want it. So maybe that wasn't quite worth it. A Markin wasting no time claiming this. Unfortunately, the cat does not die to the poison, so that means you do still have to invest effort, but of course, Henrietta can clean it up and reclaim if you need to. It might be worth sending in Russell here to damage these. So, like, Henrietta kills here, reclaims this. Oh, they body blocked, okay. I was going to say Russell comes in basically where the cowbell is, AoEs, then you can cassowary this. So that's 925. It wouldn't quite kill this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But you could pop out a jar to finish this off. Snowball's going to finish this off. Oh, no, it's not. Snowball is not enough damage here with the fire. Remember, it's only 100. Henrietta does it instead. You can still wipe the Russell off the face of the earth thanks to the Heartbreaker. Like, this Heartbreaker is going to get Russell, but I think you end up killing the Heartbreaker then. Or is the Heartbreaker going to get the Firkin? If the Heartbreaker goes in, it dies. And there is not a Terraform any longer for a Markin, so you can't just break these and then, like, get a bend effect. Russell pays for its sins, or not. Oh my god, chat! What?! What is happening?! It's not even bad here! It's actually pretty good! Group hug. So we're taking the snipe here, which I can respect, or not. A lot of internal debate from, yeah, I got a little big brain for that one. A little big brain action. Playing it very defensively. All right. Unwilling to accept no takedowns. Or not. That was a lot of debate. That was a lot of debate. We end up with a triple orange, double blue panic point, so a 1-0 panic point advantage, 8 keys to 6. And chat, there's a Leshy on the board. I wonder if A. Markin has access to Zomboni. I wonder if A. Markin has access to Zomboni. Yeah, Leshy and Russell in the finals, chat. This is why I love level 1 Phobies, because I really think that there's so many Phobies that people don't respect because they didn't like it initially and then never leveled it up. Or just never wanted to put in the thought about what are the scenarios that would make this thing good. And we might be seeing where, like, does this there's still 3 turns on this cooldown. This has a 3-turn cooldown. Leshy basically invalidates Russell. And now chip damage is verging on impossible for Big She. Because you're just going to be able to heal it all off. We'll have to see if Leshy takes the day. This is wild already, chat. Absolutely a worthy finals. There's a group hug. I think that was the Gravedigger. Yeah. Group hug actually happened and it was relevant. That was huge. Like, look at this. That was incredible. I can't believe we just witnessed in real time a Leshy putting in work. So the Firkin probably has to hit this Heartbreaker, I imagine. All but one key getting invested into a Hevo 1.0. But time is on a Markin side at this point. Eventually, this Heartbreaker will be active again. And in the meantime, Big She has to flip the panic points with the 5 keys remaining and what they have on the board. And to be perfectly honest, the Russell might just be dead weight at this stage. All right, no Firkin power down. We're instead getting some damage going on to this Cowbell. You know, this has got to, like, if you win with Leshy, that's got to feel good. I know it feels good to win with Russell. The Firkin onto the Firkin. Huh. Hey, Markin doesn't really need the Firkin. It, I think, was originally intended, because remember, both Firkins came out long before Russell and Heartbreaker. Big She is known for the preemptive Firkin. I think A. Markin did it both to counter the Firkin as well as preemptively. Like, if A. Markin knew they were going to go Heartbreaker, they needed an answer to make sure that all of it wasn't focused on Heartbreaker. Now that that power down went here, I mean, this is on cooldown anyway, but it's going to come back eventually. Spider, Miss Moffat here, is the final phobie out of Big She. 1 key remaining for our orange player, with 1 slot open. Here's the big question now. Is Leshy going to get to attack? Russell is live, not next turn, but the turn after. So what is Big She going to step on this panic point with? Because whatever it is probably gets annihilated, right? Even this Hevo is potentially vulnerable. 1, 2, so this can hit, this can hit, this can hit, this can hit, and this can hit. $14, $18, $22. This is a dead Hevo if A. Markin wants it. And I don't know that there's a great retaliation path for Big She, depending on how things are positioned. Like, you might be able to spider yoink, say, the snowball into the pit. That'd be a Hevo for Snowball and Ray. I think they're going to go for it. Snowball dies to Snowball and Cassowary. I don't know that Ray is vulnerable. I don't know why, but Leshy looks like a penguin to me when it walks. Just the way it, like, waddles up. So the Leshy has 1,700 health, can be hit by So we'll say 500 plus the poison. Plus another 400 is 9. Plus another 700 is 16 and change. This will live. I think Moffat need to be one tile up. Yeah, because then it could go where the Firkin is. I agree. Where it's positioned now, like, there's no... A market was never going to swing over the top. And that seems like such a minor positioning mistake, but it is relevant. Actually, this might be enough to kill Leshy thanks to the fire. I think this is enough thanks to the fire. Yeah, you hit it once and then it's dead. You have to actually attack it. So that means that the heal is off, which means that the Caw is suddenly relevant again. You can even activate it this turn. Now, the problem is that Leshy is a dimensional. But it doesn't matter because... Wait. Sure? I know you it was not going to die to the pole, though, right? This is worse, isn't it? Would the spider have just been dead? Is that why that happened? Am I wrong? Like, isn't the first line better with the spider killing the Leshy? Heartbreaker's not ready yet. It'll be ready next turn, but, like, the game is over at that stage. Couldn't kill it without the Russell damage? No, it would have gotten there, wouldn't it? Because you had another attack with the spider, and then the fire would have killed it. I think. It was 10 off? Oh, no. Womp wah. Wait, it had 130 left? So not 10, then. Does it do 120? No, it's only 100 at that level, so... That's unfortunate. Because it would have clearly been much better to be able... Obviously, you would kill it with the spider and then Caw, and then your opponent's probably in deep doo-doo. Nothing is safe from the Heartbreaker at this stage. Granted, a Markin can only heal one phobie. But they can choose anything. Well, I guess they can't choose the Russell now because of the positioning. Now they can. You can be here 1, 2, 3. So you could get the Russell or the Firkin. And at this point, I don't think Big She can do it. There's not really enough damage. You could try and wait things out and hope that the poison does them in, but given the muffin, that's just not going to happen. I don't even know that you have to do this. The yoink. Oh, yoink is up. Never mind. Oh, you're doing it to cap the point. All right. All right. Now remember, Heartbreaker still represents a lot of melee damage as well. So while it's never going to get another Beside Myself activation, it still can just charge in and punch something for a lot. That's, in fact, a dead Heartbreaker. This is going to end up being closer than maybe I thought, because you can get the heal here, which is presumably what you will heal, but there's really not a lot of damage to represent on these. That being said, 4-1 panic point advantage, and I don't know that Big She can assault the position. Big She doesn't have the damage now? Yes, and just the bodies. It's not even just the damage. The issue is also, like, you can't fight their phobies and you can't reclaim the board. Like, there's multiple issues going on. Preserving the muffin until the last second. Why not just heal Hevo? Because you don't need to. And if Big She tries to overextend to kill the Hevo, then you just blow up whatever comes in, right? You aren't forced into doing it right this second, so if you don't have to, why do it? Alright, so preventing the displacement. That doesn't really save anything, though. They'll probably just heal now to kill Firkin. Probably. Ray will not die to simply the poison. So they're going to heal the Ray, I guess. Yep. So the Yoink is available, but you're not going to kill it. Here's the thing. The answer for a Markin might literally just be put the Hevo, like, down here where it just can't possibly die, and you can't reach it. Expired Muffin? Yep. Like, all you have to do is not let the Hevo die, and there's no way Big She can catch you, right? Like, cap the points or catch you fast enough. I don't think. Because you have to focus this right now, I think. Honestly, I don't think it matters, because you're going to take so much damage. You can attack the heart this turn. Or you can just kill the spider, if this is enough. It in fact is. Chat, that was a wild game one. Absolutely bonkers, but well played. GG. I wish Sucky was better in Home Sweet Home, so hard to get him into a stable position. Home Sweet Home's a weird map. I kind of like the idea of the map. Here we are, game 2 of the finals. Zoning in a little bit late because it took a little bit of time to get in there, but this is Big She's pick. Down 1 game in the finals. Can they pull it back to a game 3? We're about to find out. Some fairly standard openers. Here's the question. Are we going to see the big Mildred? Thank you, chat. Getting the switch on the overlay there. Are we going to see the big Mildred coming out? I apologize for the scene switching late. I had Discord up as I'm checking stuff as we're loading in, so it was covering where I would normally see it. So we do get the preemptive Firkin. Is this the big tell? I think it is. I expect Big She is going to try and pull off the Mildred miracle. Is it going to be enough? It has been successful thus far, putting in a lot of work for Big She. We'll have to see if it actually comes out in this particular game. A fairly aggressive plan here with Big She, but again, it'll be at worst, what, a 2-to-1 panic point advantage? I think if you're going for Mildred, okay, we're getting a second 1 key. I think if your plan is bank into Big Thing, Mildred, Boss, Hevo, whatever, it probably makes more sense instead to not take this panic point. Allow it to be 1-to-1 for a while, and then you can get to where you need to be. Now, given that it's Mildred, or Boss, I guess, that are 8 keys, you don't need that extra key, so getting the extra 1 key on the board means you can recap this, as opposed to if you needed to get to 9, or the Hevos, the Chucks, some other mothers of the world. We're getting a jar. This means that there's going to be damage going down on this Firkin, and I was about to say a moment ago that I think this is possibly too aggressive for the Firkin. But maybe not. The 2 hits there leave Firkin at a mere 650 health. It will be able to retreat, but if it's going to try and make it to the spa, it's out of commission for a very long time. Firkin doesn't have the HP to be on the front. That's kind of where I'm at. Firkin is not a super tanky phobie. 1300 health is not bad, but not an enormous amount. Now, what's interesting here is that A. Markand is locking themselves into 5 phobies. It is possible that Big She says, hey, I'm just... What? I'm a little surprised that we didn't see a double move here. Really? I am... Huh. Okay, we do get a 1-move retreat. That's reasonable. The problem is that this unicorn is vulnerable. You could slide this down, this up, and the jar, and put a hurt on this. Is this still dead? Not any longer, but this immediately puts Big She another turn behind with the Mildred. I did not like the aggressive Firkin play. I don't think I like this either. Couldn't you have just killed... This is 650? Yeah, you could have just killed this and walked this away twice, and then it's safe. Even put it here, and then, you know, it could still interact to a degree, and then eventually slide it into the spa. But yeah, that's a big tempo loss. I feel like this is a big setback for Big She. I don't think you want it to be this aggressive. Now the enemy Firkin comes out, but similar to what we saw against Hakune, is this going to be enough damage to actually fight the Mildred? Yeah, you could turn off Mildred a little bit, but eventually Mildred's going to go off. And you don't necessarily have enough juice to really threaten it. Now, this Firkin is still going to take some chip damage. It's back up over 1,000 health, albeit barely. But you can slide the jar up to poke at it. And of course, the cat can come in here. You could reposition, say, Stabby, get a first shot, first salvo onto the corn here. Maybe that tempo loss wasn't as big as we were saying. But we'll have to see. We're getting the cowbell to follow up. I guess the assumption here is that cat's going to come sliding in. Big She keeps the other key. 15 keys available to only 10 for our blue player. 4 1 keys is right. It's a pretty heavy investment. Like, that's a lot of keys. It's not something to be ignored. Blue has a huge key and tempo advantage at the moment. I don't know about a key advantage. I mean, they definitely have You can say it's a key advantage because of the board state, right? Like, they have 2 more Phobies on the board. Those Phobies are, well, with the exception of Stabby, just as or more healthy. The thing is that they're maxed out on Phobies that aren't as impressive. And remember, as we saw before in the Hakune game, where Big She did this, with the Firkin deactivation, this Firkin is permalocked. It will never activate if Big She wants that to be the case, because they can always threaten turning it off, which means that Mildred has basically free reign to position wherever it wants. And A. Markin right now does not have the ability to counteract the Mildred. Like, you just don't. However, when this cat slides in, and believe me, it's coming like a freight train, it's going to slide into one of these spots, it's going to cap a point, and then it's going to flip the panic points, and then we'll probably immediately die, freeing up the 7 or ultimately 10 keys from our blue player. I expect the cat to get sacrificed in short order. That's the obvious one as compared to anything else. You don't have to pressure a ton. Like, you don't have to panic here. You're down 2-1, but you still have 4,800 health. Just free up a slot and get whatever your Mildred counter is prepared. This jar is safe, obviously. There's nothing that can reach it other than the cowbell, so who cares? Who'd have thought that Dead Cat Lady and the Leapercarn would have been best buddies? Jar being safe there is crazy to me. It is wild, but one movers, am I right? Mildred being appropriately aggressive. Because again, Firkin's still down for 2 more turns. By the way, 2 turns, and this cooldown, Big She's cooldown, is going to end faster than A. Markin's. I know I'm pointing the wrong way, but... It's funny that we've been watching Big She push for Mildred for a couple of months now and has really been perfecting the strategy. For anybody curious about kitty littering, exactly what it does. And we do get the big retreat, which is unsurprising. Now, at this point, 4,400 health, still a very, very long time. This will come back online, but I imagine Big She's probably going to put Firkin, like, here. Stabby's out of the battle for an eternity. Given how far they were retreating, it would be safe to move the Firkin up, but this might not be bad. This feels like it is... Well, you can't hit it now. I thought they were going to leave the unicorn for a second. I'm like, it's baiting the Mildred. Although it's not really bait. You probably just lose the unicorn. Mildred with a little bit of damage on it, but not really meaningful damage. To be honest, I don't hate the idea of the cowbell going in and claiming this point, but odds are there's a trap there, so you just lose the cowbell. If there wasn't, it might be reasonable, because then your opponent has to expose something, whatever that something is. So this is what I was talking about. With this position, that means that you can once again turn off this Firkin if they want to try and be a threat to the Mildred. They probably won't, because, you know, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. You can actually hit the Mildred from the position you're in. So you could retreat here, then move up and pop it, if that's what you want to do. Obviously, Big She will end up retreating and repositioning. But A. Morgan's playing it very, very cautiously, very safely, getting this Stabby up to full health, may even rotate the unicorn back. Obviously, you have to get it out of the way so that the Stabby can get back in. But with 4K health, you still have time. The big debate coming in. Honestly, I think one of the big mistakes here for A. Markin was maxing out on Phobies so that you couldn't immediately, depending on what your answer in mind is, you've now had at least 2 wasted turns of trying to deploy whatever it is to then get it on the board, which is, I'm not sure what A. Markin's waiting for other than maybe trying to connect with the Firkin onto Mildred, then make a push. Because you obviously could have cleared out this cat a while back and then just sent it in, cap a point. They recap a cowbell, but who cares? Your keys are now freed up. So I'm very curious what their answer is going to be. At level 1 or at any level, a power down effect, it obviously helps to reduce the damage. We're probably talking like, 300 damage maybe from Wooly Bully or an Oopsie Baby or something like that. We saw Smiley attempted. Obviously, we saw Firkin attempted as well. But there has to be something else at this stage in order to threaten this Mildred / Firkin. Given the 10 keys, literally anything could show up. And to be honest, I don't hate the idea of, say, a boss. It will tank the Mildred. It'll represent damage on some of the other stuff that will clearly be clustered by it because 1 movers and not a lot of space. Yeah, the Firkin is going to have to come back. The question is, Big She going to put a healer on the board? Is that even necessary? I think you have to put the Mildred here. If you leave it here, they can jar here safely. No, they can't. Because this could be a bait to try and snipe the jar. It would, once again, open up a slot for A. Markin to put something on the board. But obviously A. Markin isn't interested in doing that because they could have done it turns ago. Quagmire. That's something we have yet to see show up out of Big She, especially in these scenarios. So I'm curious what the impetus is for this. Quagmire is by no means bad. Everybody's favorite snot monster is very tanky. And it's a big enough threat of just walking up and slapping the crap out of somebody. Notably, neither player has elected to go for a Terraformer on this map, which is something that I keep meaning to try out. But, I mean, Big She has their particular game plan. There's probably not a lot of room key-wise to squeeze in, say, a Gravedigger, although that could have happened if some of these 1 keys didn't die. A. Markin starting to play with fire, 3k health left on the heart. You like Quagmire and Mildred? I mean, like I said, Quagmire is by no means bad. It is very much in the vein of, hey, I'm generically good. Like, you're not going to be unhappy with me on your team, but I'm not necessarily supporting every game plan, every strategy. Very few strategies are going to be unhappy or upset about having a a really tanky phobie. But yes, very expensive. 13 keys between the 2 of them. 17 with Firkin. Little bit of a beatdown going down on the snot monster. But at this stage, A. Markin has to make their play soon. Because, of course, Big She's going to be able to reclaim stuff with the cowbell. So you have to have something die, then recover with something else, and have enough time for it to meaningfully interact with the board. And while your heart anxiety level is a resource. Your life total is a resource to be expended as needed in order to win the game. It's not a completely irrelevant cost. There is a tempo element where there might just not be enough time if you wait too long. This is bold if you're going for this. I'm guessing the assumption here is even if the Mildred comes in, it's not going to be enough to actually kill anything. Plus, there's traps here. We don't know whose traps, but somebody has traps. Ooh, so the Mildred is exposed and gets hit by the Firkin. Mildred is now just a body blocker. Does literally nothing without kitty littering. This was the opportunity I think A. Markand was waiting for. I mentioned it like 100 turns ago, whenever it was, that they might have just been patiently waiting to Firkin the Mildred, push, and then go from there. There may be a trap here, but it will tank it. The cowbell, that is. $2,400 health remaining. Quagmire's still in range of the jar. Double hit at the jar specifically, because clearly there's not many places it could go where the jar couldn't just poke it anyway. The Mildred now on cooldown thanks to the Firkin. And the aggro stabby play I think everybody saw coming from a million miles away. Get double hit with the Firkin, a hit with Corn, a hit with Quagmire, but the Quagmire down to 1185, not the healthiest thing right now. And of course, now that A. Markand has slots freed up, we're going to get the Smiley. Is the Smiley good enough here? In this particular position, I don't hate it. You're obviously at a big advantage from a life total perspective if you're Big She, but you do have triple panic point advantage if you're A. Markand. Triple blue, some traps are around here. We don't know where or whose, but the unicorns have been lurking way too long for there to not be a bunch of traps. So Mildred is going to claim this spot. That's interesting. You don't have enough damage to kill the Firkin. Well, you don't even have enough keys for, say, a snowball. So this is a dead unicorn. And now it's going to be, can Mildred overcome the Smiley and 5 keys? This might just be a dead... Yeah, killing the Quagmire. Can you get both? You can get both. That hurts. Oh, no. Kitty littering is live, which means you kill this, but you can't kill the Firkin. I think this is the last run for Mildred here, chat. I don't think there's enough gas in Big She's tank to do this. It's only 940. Oh my god, I thought it was 950. Oh, that sucks. That's brutal. So we're doing this in order to ensure that this doesn't get pulled forward and exposed. I guess. It didn't matter because this ended up doing it, so I don't... Sure. So we do get a Jill, the newly dead's coming down. I think Ted is still dead. Yeah, Ted is toast. And then you can walk the Hevo up if you want to. And I don't think there's enough damage to really threaten anything. Because Mildred's going to be down for another couple turns. Love the smiley. You have to delicately drop the smiley, because we have seen Smiley fail into Big She's Mildred on many occasions in the past. It might have just simply been a lapse in judgment on that turn where Mildred was able to get hit with that Firkin. You might not, if you pulled it back, you might have been in equally bad position. But I think that Big She ended up giving up minor tempo losses, like the early Firkin push, like on turn 2 or 3 or whatever it was. Like, it just didn't need to be there. Spare damage onto the stabby that led to reflect damage. The Firkin connection. There were a few different things throughout the course of the game that I think gave A. Markand windows. But a very, very patient game played by A. Markand. 2,200 health on the heart. And now a diseased Firkin. We do get another Mildred hit. Not quite enough to kill that damn Hevo, but we do get the connection there. Barely any damage going down on the Smiley. And oddly enough, Mildred didn't leech that much health. At this stage, I think we can see it, but definitely GG. This was a great set of games. We had a lot of cool moments. A lot of wild things happened. Definitely a great way to end Fright Night number 7. How fitting is it that Mildred is the final phobie remaining? Down goes Big She. Congratulations to A. Markand. We officially have our Fright Night number 7 winner. It is A. Markand playing through the field and the competition and taking it down. Congratulations. If you're interested in playing in Fright Night, and it might be Tiny Terrors in the future, if you're interested in finding out what that is, hit up the Random Slots Discord. The link for that, of course, is in the description, or come by the live stream. Link for that also down there. Oh, and by the way, those likes and subscribes do help. But that's going to do it for this time. Congratulations again to A. Markand. Congratulations and thank you to all of our competitors. Definitely a lot of fun. That's going to do it. So as always, everybody, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And Black Lives Matter.